This is CCTN, the Catholic Community Television Network.
CCTN and its programming are made possible by your generous support. 5125 South Apopka Vineland Road, Orlando, Florida, 32819. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to CHRISTIFIDELES, the program dealing with the faithful people of Christ. Today we have a special program for Boynton Beach, Florida, and we welcome to CHRISTIFIDELES the President Rector of St. Vincent de Paul Regional Major Seminary, Monsignor David Toups. Monsignor has been with us on another program, but this is interesting about being here talking to you regarding the seminary. And of course, we hear with all the scandals and all the things in our church today, and it's always, it's always, I don't know if you're getting backlash at this point.
What are the seminaries doing? What are the seminaries doing?
That's exactly it. What are the seminaries doing to cause, to make this, change this situation? Yeah. Maybe you could address that for us.
Sure. Well, first of all, Father John Giel and all of your CCTN crew, it's really a blessing to have you all on our campus. And we appreciate you asking those questions, because I think it's very important for the faithful to have some confidence in what's happening in our church at this time. The seminary of today is not the seminary of yesteryear. Even 25 years ago when I was in the seminary, 35 years ago, 40 years ago when you were in the seminary, it has come an incredibly long way. So, for instance, psychological evaluations are a mandatory part, and even going back to when I entered, that has been a part of our seminary entrance for a long time. The psychosexual maturity of the individual, annual workshops. We do an awful lot to help train men to be healthy, wholesome, chaste, celibate men in today's world. So a lot of what we are already doing has been in place for the past 25, 30 years. So please God, the problems that we have had in great number, as we know from looking at the reports, are men who were ordained 40, 50 years ago and beyond, many of whom are already deceased. I think the idea of the Charter for the Protection of Young People that our bishops' conference wrote following the last round of scandals in 2002 did an awful lot to continue to help educate us. It's been a part of our program from the very beginning, forming men in what it is to have good, healthy, wholesome boundaries with the people of God. And I think it is also important for the people of God to know that when someone enters the seminary, two things. One, that doesn't mean they're going to be a priest. And it doesn't mean that the choice is totally theirs. We talk about discernment on two levels. The man himself is discerning what God is calling him to, and the church, represented in the rector and the formation team, the men and women who form our team here at the seminary, are also discerning if this man has what it takes to be a priest, to serve the people of God in the 21st century. We have about a 30% attrition rate. So from when one enters St. Vincent de Paul to when they leave, at least 30% of that class will not graduate. I would say probably half of that is their own discernment, and I feel called to serve God in another way, possibly in marriage or in another profession. The other half may be asked by me and the formation team that we don't believe that this is God's call for you. And that's, of course, a very difficult thing, but our primary objective is to make sure that the people of God are receiving men who are wholesome, who are ready to lay down their lives to be shepherds who know how to lead the flock.
I think that's so important for people to realize that. And also, I think it's also what you mentioned is that, when we hear about so many of these people, these situations, when you see the statistics out of Pennsylvania, hundreds of priests, and I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. But when you look at the categories, 60%, 70% of them have deceased already, and they were living in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
In a much different period.
Yeah.
In a much different period. Yeah. Now, again, that doesn't justify it, doesn't make it good.
No, it doesn't.
I think in the Pennsylvania report, there was one instance since 2002. One instance is one too many.
Yeah.
We know that. But I think it gives some perspective on how the church has, thanks be to God, grown, developed, handled these situations in a much different form in the last 10, 20, 30 years.
Be that as it may, what type of students are you getting? The men that are entering the seminary today are different than the men that entered when I was entering the seminary.
Sure.
So what type of
I'd say you could break
caliber?
them into three camps, if you will. I would say, first of all, the caliber across the board is very good. When people come to St. Vincent de Paul for a visit, one of the things they always tell me when they leave, your men are so normal. I'm like, it's the greatest compliment you could offer me. They experience a very healthy, normal, I'm not sure what they pictured them to be, but normal seems to be the word that comes out. Just good, wholesome men. I would say they come out of three different camps. One would be a group of men who, in high school or college, early college, discern that this is what I need to try. I need to experience this and transfer into the college seminary and eventually come to St. Vincent's. Another group would be the group that finished college, were very involved in campus ministry. By the way, a little plug for our campus ministries. That's where we're reaching the next generation. So in each of our dioceses, that is crucial to the formation of future missionary disciples, both wonderful, men and women who will be called to marriage, men who have been called to discern priesthood, and women even to consecrated life. So,
excuse you, but do you find that most of the gentlemen that are entering the seminary are either college age or past college age?
Well, it'd be equally divided in thirds. Yeah. Interesting enough, those coming out of high school or college, entering young, which is I would say probably the novelty that there are younger vocations coming in to discern priesthood, which in the midst of everything else going on is just simply pure grace. I think St. Paul said it best, where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more, that there is still the Holy Spirit inviting young men. So the younger men, the men in college who when they graduate say, I think the workforce I'm called to enter is the vineyard of the Lord, and transfer in and go into pre-theology. And then there is about a third of the men who, after college, after working 5-10 years, being involved in their parish communities, all of a sudden wake up one day and say, I think I'm supposed to be a priest. You yourself had worked in the world before entering seminary. So they're pretty much divided in thirds. Average age at St. Vincent's is probably right under 30 years old, which means I have some men in their early 20s, some men already in their early 40s.
We've been seeing a lot of ultra-conservative type of mentality. Is that being promoted in the seminary nowadays, or is it just the mentality of what these guys are looking for?
One of the things I'm very proud of St. Vincent de Paul Seminary is that we are preparing our men for the church in the Southeast to represent our parish communities. So they are being formed. Now, how they respond to that and what they take from that may be a whole different thing. But our men, our liturgies here represent the liturgies you would find in any one of our parishes, whether in English or Spanish. We try to never gravitate to the far right or the far left. We strive to form our men in what it is to be Catholic, to embrace the teachings of our church in a way that is very balanced. St. Thomas Aquinas, wonderful line, virtue is in the middle. Yeah. And I think that's so important for us. Now, a younger generation, if you will, our millennials, I would say do gravitate more to the traditional. Our job is to try to help balance them out to see what it is to be all things to all people. Sure. That if you have a charismatic liturgy in your parish that you're totally free to celebrate, if you have a folk liturgy, sure. Even if you were to have a Mass in Latin, this is what is all part of the Catholic tradition. Sure. But what is it to be right in the middle? So I think we're really forming our men. And that would be unique, in a sense, to St. Vincent's. We're the only seminary between New Orleans and Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. So our specialty is the Southeast. Sure. So we really try to form our men in that.
Monsignor, what can the people out there do to help support St. Vincent Seminary?
Well, I think the most important thing is your prayers. I know that sounds trite, but it is essential. St. Vincent de Paul is probably one of the best kept secrets in the state of Florida. Many people don't even realize we have a seminary, or that it is a regional seminary, or that it's bilingual. To pray for the mission of us. I mean, we're kind of like Nazareth. We talk about the hidden years of Jesus in Nazareth. Yes. That was his seminary. That was his formation.
Absolutely.
St. Vincent de Paul is Nazareth for our men preparing to serve you and to serve our people in the parishes. So pray for the mission. Pray for the faculty, that we be holy men and women of God, mm-hmm. who really are striving to give the people of God the very best. Pray for the conversion, ongoing conversion of our men, that their hearts be ever more given to Christ. Also in your, on a very practical level, not only prayer, but when you support Bishop Noonan and your annual pastoral appeal. What do you call it in Orlando?
Our Catholic appeal.
Your Catholic appeal. That is supporting the tuition, the room, the board of the men who are studying for priesthood. And so I thank the people of God for their support of the diocese, which supports directly our seminary.
You mentioned just briefly, you said men and women that teach here. So we have women here that teach.
We do. I find it very important that the feminine genius, as John Paul II would say, that the feminine perspective is also a part of our formation program. So women who are professors of theology, are my professor of linguistics as well, and pastoral counseling, really offer a whole nother perspective. Even the formation team, where we talk about and discuss and discern the men, I have 3 women, 2 women religious. I think you're going to talk to one later, yeah. And a woman counselor. To have their perspective on the men is very valuable for us.
Well, listen, I want to thank you so much, Monsignor, for giving us this time, and we appreciate it, and we'll certainly keep you in our prayers. And please stay tuned to watch more of CHRISTIFIDELES from St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary.
This is CCTN, the Catholic Community Television Network.
CCTN and its programming are made possible by your generous support. 5125 South Apopka Vineland Road, Orlando, Florida, 32819. Thank you.
Welcome to St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary here in Boynton Beach in sunny South Florida. We're here today in front of the chapel that's named for St. Vincent de Paul, an 18th century saint that's well known for all of his service to the poor and the formation of the Vincentian order, a little bit lesser known for his important role in the reform of priestly formation, that process that helps young men be formed into the priests that serve you in your parishes. While the Vincentians handed over the control of the seminary some years ago to the bishops of Florida, it's staffed today by mainly diocesan priests and lay faculty and staff. We wanted to show you around today these beautiful grounds and tell you a little bit about the process of how those men become priests through pastoral, human, academic, and spiritual formation that all happen right here at St. Vincent de Paul. We're here in the sacristy of St. Vincent de Paul Chapel. In the main sanctuary, the students, the seminarians, the deacons and priests gather regularly to pray the Liturgy of the Hours, celebrate the Mass. One of the things they do for their classes, they meet in small groups to practice the things that they'll do in the parish one day. One of those things, the men who are about to be ordained deacons, they vest as deacons, they practice preaching. So they have these practicum classes where they get credits. I think for a lot of us, probably the conception of what happens at seminary is a lot of that. You learn how to do the things that, as people in the pews, we see priests and deacons doing at the altar or at the ambo. But there's so much more to it. One of the things, we'll see some deacons preaching, also see some priests or some current deacons who are learning to be priests. They're called transitional deacons. And we're going to see them at the altar learning the motions of the priest and how to consecrate the elements and all of these things. So they're getting used to the vestments, they're getting used to being up at the altar in front of a big room, they're getting used to the microphones, they're getting used to the prayers and where the ribbons go in the book and all these little things they can, when it's time for them to just go and celebrate Mass, they can simply pray and to lead the people of God in prayer. The atrium here is one of the latest additions to the campus. It's a donation from a couple years ago. Sits right behind the chapel in the heart of the campus. Gives a great indoor-outdoor feel to the cafeteria. A chance for guys to get together, just to sit, share some time in between classes and have some community. We've seen here today at St. Vincent de Paul, they focus on these 4 pillars of formation in order to prepare men to be well-rounded, good priests for you and for your parishes. We ask you please to pray for the seminarians and the faculty and staff that work here. We ask you also to open yourself, if you haven't already, to considering a vocation of the priesthood and join us in this awesome vocation. May God bless you.
Welcome back to CHRISTIFIDELES, and we continue our special program at St. Vincent de Paul Regional Seminary with Father Benjamin Leonards. Father Benjamin is an associate with me, but he attended St. Vincent de Paul Seminary 5-6 years ago. Yep. Before he was ordained, and he has accompanied us down to the seminary with us for this extraordinary invitation. Monsignor Toups inviting us to film here. But I just want to know from Father Benjamin, who's been here several years. How long were you here? Were you the whole 5 years?
I was here for 4 out of 5 years. I had that pastoral year that I'm sure you've heard about from some of the seminarians.
And so how does it feel to be back here at the seminary?
It's really exciting. You know, there's a couple of spots where you walk in and you see something that's just filled with memories, and some of them are really exciting and some of them are a little bit more difficult and remember moments of challenge, but those challenges are also what helps bring about growth, you know, and so even those, it's nice to revisit it. I think, you know, this May will be 6 years of priesthood for me, and so seeing, it's a little bit of like standing next to a measuring stick. You know, when you're a kid and your dad makes a mark on the wall, and then a couple years later you stand next to it and go, wow, I used to be that tall, but now I'm this tall. And so it's a little bit like just coming back home and seeing how. Does it
bring back good memories, real good memories of, or bad memories?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big mix of everything, I think. For me, the thing that has struck me the most about this visit is, first of all, just the hospitality and the accommodations. It's such a hospitable environment, and everything's so new, right? There's been so many renovations. There's been so many additions to the physical plant. There's so many new faces. The teaching faculty is all brand new. I got to go around and help shoot some of the B-roll with Ken earlier, and hearing the teachers and going, oh man, these guys are fantastic. So I'm just very excited for all the guys who are here. It's a 5-year program here, and I've been gone for a full 5 years. So this place is filled with all kinds of new faces, and they all seem so engaged and enthusiastic about the program that's being offered.
Yeah, I get an impression by just talking to some of the seminarians, not only just our seminarians, but some of the seminarians here, that they're excited to be here, just filled with the presence of God in many ways.
Yeah, it's a good, well-rounded program of formation. Monsignor Toups is doing a fantastic job. It's a beautiful place. It's really inspiring. there's a lot of enthusiasm. It's a good time for St. Vincent de Paul, I think.
Yeah. So tell me, what one of your best memories of being in the seminary?
I think one of the first things that comes to mind is my deacon year, the year I was a transitional deacon. We wanted to make a gift to the seminary, and so we built a big pergola over the statue of Our Lady. There's a nice lake just outside the library here, and there's a statue of Our Lady that sits next to the lake, and my room was always pretty close to that. I had a nice view, and I got to see Our Lady, and we decided collectively that we were going to go and grab a couple donations and throw some of our own money at building this nice pergola, and we grew some jasmine that grew up kind of weaving over the top of it. Unfortunately, it was destroyed by a hurricane a couple of years ago.
Oh my!
And but we had the best time putting it together and just making this gift to a place that had given so much to us, and just some of the laughs and some of the memories and the manual labor that came with it. And even today, texting some of the guys from my class a picture of Our Lady, their sans pergola, and saying, hey, maybe we should find a week to come back down here and rebuild. And there's already a couple guys that are excited about that. So the fraternity and the community that we share at this place is really one of the things that strikes me first as like a really wonderful memory.
Wow. So can you tell us anything good or bad about this seminary that you think is people should know about?
Oh my goodness. What do you need to know about this place? I don't know if I've got like an inside scoop that's gonna really, whet the appetites of your listeners. So we have a big benefactor event called Friends of the Seminary, and get people from all over the place that come in, and they buy a table, and it's a big fundraising, fancy dinner. And the seminarians, we worked. We were bartenders, we were table waiters, we were running things in the kitchen. And then afterwards, after we had it all picked up and everybody went home, we would pull our cars out to the basketball court and flip on our lights and play basketball by the light of our headlights. And those are always kind of like really ridiculous games. That was not serious basketball at that point, not super competitive, but we just had a ball with it. And eventually, the Joe Patty event, which is another big fundraiser, paid for new lights on the basketball court. And that was kind of a cool thing for us to kind of see that come to fruition like that.
Well, thank you very much for being here with us and certainly sharing your experience here at St. Vincent de Paul 6 years ago.
Yeah,
but
all those years ago.
This has been CHRISTIFIDELES, the program about the faithful people of Christ, and we hope you continue to join us. And meanwhile, remember that we are all the face of Christ to each other, so let us live that way. Amen.
This is CCTN, the Catholic Community Television Network.
CCTN and its programming are made possible by your generous support. 5125 South Apopka Vineland Road, Orlando, Florida 32819. Thank you.